Have you ever wondered why real-world corporate litigation looks like an endless ocean of mundane paperwork, while television makes it feel like an elite gladiatorial duel? You watch a top-tier attorney walk into a boardroom, utter two devastating sentences, throw a blue folder across a polished mahogany table, and walk away with a $50 million settlement before lunch. It feels electric, highly tactical, and profoundly effortless. But deep down, you know something is missing from that picture. When you measure fictional mastery against the grueling realities of actual legal practice, the gap isn't just wide, it is foundational. You are caught between wanting to embody that unshakable confidence and knowing that trying his moves in a real courtroom would get you disbarred or ruined. How does someone bridge the gap between cinematic theatricality and true professional dominance? How do you project undeniable power without becoming an empty caricature? The answer lies not in copying his theatrical bluffs, but in understanding the hidden psychological engine driving his moves. In this deep breakdown, we are pulling back the curtain on the subtle leverage mechanics that separate dramatic entertainment from genuine tactical excellence. From analyzing the hidden architecture of courtroom leverage, to dissecting the psychological weight of supreme self-trust, to mastering the art of high-stakes negotiations under extreme pressure, this is why Harvey Specter vs. Real Lawyers isn't even close. Point 1. The hidden reality of preparation behind the bluff. On screen, the high-stakes corporate attorney appears to rely entirely on theatrical bravado and split-second theater. He walks into a room, delivers a razor-sharp insult, and forces a multi-million-dollar concession through pure intimidation. But if you look beneath the dramatic surface, the real reason the maneuver succeeds is not the swagger itself, but the unglamorous mountain of preparation supporting it. Real legal battles are not decided by dynamic speeches. They're won 6 months earlier in airless basement archives, wading through 20,000 pages of discovery documents. The dangerous trap most ambitious professionals fall into is imitating the high-stakes gamble while ignoring the underlying research. A leverage game won on sheer bravado is just a delayed bankruptcy of credibility. When you attempt a bold maneuver without absolute technical mastery of the facts, any seasoned adversary will call your bluff and crush you on the details. Real high performers understand that confidence is merely an auxiliary byproduct of relentless labor. The television character can afford to skip the research phase because the screenwriters have already guaranteed his victory in the final act. But in the real world, reality holds the pen. If you want your strategic, bold moves to carry weight, you must earn the right to make them by outworking everyone else in the dark long before you step into the light. Point 2. The tactical weapon of strategic silence over verbal noise. Notice how average negotiators attempt to dominate a room by overwhelming everyone with constant chatter, endless arguments, and frantic over-explanations. They fill every quiet pause with nervous justifications because quietness feels like vulnerability to them. In dramatic television, the master negotiator operates on the exact opposite frequency. He utters 5 precise words, stops talking entirely, and forces the opposing side to suffocate in the ensuing vacuum. True authority never begs for an audience. It demands absolute stillness. In real-world negotiations, the person who speaks first after a bold demand is almost always the person who loses the advantage. Real litigators know that stillness creates acute emotional discomfort in an opponent. When you state your term and comfortably remain quiet, you subtly communicate that your position is non-negotiable and supported by unshakable facts. The opponent's mind immediately fills the empty space with catastrophic self-doubt, leading them to offer concessions simply to break the tension. Modern corporate culture rewards loud visibility, but real psychological power resides in calculated restraint. By replacing frantic noise with disciplined quiet, you control the emotional atmosphere of any room and force your opponent to react to your steady center rather than pulling you into their chaos. Point 3. The primacy of pure competence over superficial charm. It is easy to look at a suave attorney and assume his career was built on tailored suits, perfect hair, and razor-sharp charisma. But charm without underlying substance is nothing more than a polished scam that quickly disintegrates under real pressure. People forgive a lack of warmth long before they forgive a lack of results. The reason elite figures can afford to be abrasive or distant is because their actual execution is so extraordinarily high that their organization cannot survive without them. In actual legal and corporate environments, charismatic smooth talkers frequently climb quickly in the early stages of their careers, only to hit a hard ceiling when complex technical execution becomes mandatory. When a crisis strikes, nobody calls the person who makes great small talk at happy hour. They call the quiet operator who knows how to fix the broken machinery. Your primary focus must always be building undeniable, ironclad capability. Charm is a powerful force multiplier, but multiplying zero still yields zero. When you anchor your personal brand on absolute reliability and domain mastery, your presence naturally radiates authority without requiring you to try to charm every room you enter. Point 4. The anchor of relentless loyalty over unchecked ambition. In high-pressure professional environments, toxic ambition frequently drives people to sacrifice their allies for short-term personal gain. We see ruthless climbing praised as strategic brilliance, yet fictional depictions of top attorneys show an unyielding commitment to a core inner circle. The most successful operators understand that unbridled ambition without loyalty leads to total isolation and eventual destruction. When you betray your partners or throw subordinates under the bus to secure a temporary promotion, you signal to the entire ecosystem that you cannot be trusted. In contrast, standing firm beside your allies during catastrophic moments creates a subterranean dynamic of trust that money cannot buy. Real power in elite law firms or corporate boardrooms is built on network defense networks, where members know their partner will cover their back under extreme fire. Loyalty is not an abstract moral luxury. It is a critical defensive strategy. Ambition might get you into the corner office, but only fierce loyalty keeps you from being pushed out of the window when things go sideways. Point 5. The strategic necessity of being respected over being liked. A fundamental psychological flaw in most modern professionals is their desperate need for universal affection. They soften their boundaries, avoid necessary confrontation, and compromise crucial terms just to ensure everyone leaves the meeting smiling. On television, top performers operate under a radically different paradigm. They completely abandon the desire to be liked in exchange for being utterly respected. You do not win by playing the hand you are dealt. You win by making them believe you hold the entire deck. When you prioritize popularity over respect, you invite adversaries to push your boundaries and test your resolve. Real-world high stakes require an unshakable willingness to enforce standards, deliver uncomfortable truths, and stand firm against popular opinion. Being respected means that people trust your confidence, fear your boundaries, and respect your word, even if your choices upset them in the short term. The moment you stop seeking approval from others, your strategic vision clears, allowing you to execute bold moves without worrying about hurt feelings or temporary disapproval. Point 6. The reality of trial versus settlement architecture. Modern media loves the high drama of a surprise witness taking the stand in a tense courtroom trial, but the reality of high-level corporate litigation is that going to trial is almost always a catastrophic systemic failure. In real life, over 95% of major civil cases are settled long before a jury is ever impaneled. The elite attorney is not a courtroom performer. He is a master architect of settlement leverage. He crafts conditions where continuing to fight becomes so financially and reputationally ruinous for the opposing party that signing a settlement agreement becomes their only rational escape route. Drama relies on emotional outbursts, but real strategic dominance relies on systematic pressure applied quietly across multiple fronts. When you understand that victory means achieving your strategic goal without burning down your own house in an endless public battle, your entire tactical approach shifts from emotional warfare to calm structural engineering. Point 7. Creating asymmetry and psychological leverage. The ultimate differentiator between cinematic depiction and real-world execution lies in how leverage is constructed and exploited. In movies, leverage is depicted as a sudden surprise revelation found on a single piece of paper inside a manila folder. In actual high-stakes professional disputes, true leverage is built through asymmetric information, structural patience, and emotional discipline. An elite strategist maps out an opponent's hidden pain points, financial pressure lines, and internal political fractures months in advance. By systematically destabilizing their emotional equilibrium while maintaining absolute composure, you force them into committing unforced errors. You don't need a magic bullet when you control the clock, the narrative, and the pressure valves of the environment. The real victory occurs when your opponent realizes that every path forward leads to an unacceptable loss, leaving your proposed solution as their sole lifeline. The ultimate lesson of this comparative breakdown is not that you should discard the fictional archetype, but that you must reframe what makes it work. Do not try to adopt the superficial swagger, the snappy comeback style, or the dangerous habit of relying on last-minute miracles without background research. Instead, Integrate the quiet engine that powers true high performers, ironclad preparation behind every bold assertion, strategic restraint over emotional noise, undeniable technical competence, unshakable loyalty to your team, and the courage to demand respect over cheap popularity. When you combine deep operational mastery with quiet self-assurance, you don't need dramatic TV scripts or lucky screenwriting twists to dominate your environment. You become an undeniable force in your field, capable of navigating complex negotiations, weathering intense pressure, and achieving steady, decisive victories. Take these foundational strategic principles, apply them to your daily work, and build a professional reputation anchored in absolute substance rather than temporary